The clock is ticking against Nicolás Maduro. Sources tied to U.S. intelligence confirm that the Venezuelan president has entered countdown mode. In the last few hours, B-52 bombers flew over Caracas, while the aircraft carrier Gerald R advances through the Caribbean with 5,000 troops on board. Inside the Miraflores Palace, panic is visible. Missiles are being mounted on rooftops, and militias are taking the streets. According to reports, Maduro fled to Colombia during the early morning hours. And now, Washington confirms the operation to eliminate him is already underway. The Venezuelan capital awoke under heavy military presence. Local sources confirmed that units of the Bolivarian National Armed Forces (FANB) were deployed in Caracas and in the main coastal cities in direct response to the approach of the U.S. aircraft carrier USS Gerald R, positioned in the Caribbean. According to Venezuela's Ministry of Defense, led by Vladimir Pedrino Lopez, the maneuvers aim to secure the defense of the center of power, a reference to the Miraflores Palace, seat of Nicolás Maduro's government. Images released by residents show missiles installed on rooftops and armored vehicles patrolling main avenues, marking one of the largest internal mobilizations of the past decade. In the United States, the Pentagon confirmed that the strike group led by the Gerald R, composed of destroyers and missile-guided cruisers, is part of an anti-narcotics operation in Latin American waters. However, defense analysts state that the move carries a political strategic tone. It is a direct warning to the Caracas regime, accused by Washington of involvement in narco-terrorism. Regional intelligence reports indicate that the CIA may be operating inside Venezuelan territory, supported by dissident soldiers and civilian informants. Meanwhile, reports suggest that Maduro left Caracas the previous night aboard an unidentified aircraft heading toward the Colombian border, information not officially confirmed but widely echoed by local sources. The situation on the ground is on maximum alert. Airspace has been restricted, communication blackouts have occurred in certain regions, and coastal patrols have intensified. The Venezuelan government calls it psychological warfare, while Washington maintains strategic silence. The reality, however, is undeniable. The two powers now stand only a few kilometers apart from direct confrontation. In Washington, sources close to the Department of Defense have confirmed that the U.S. strategy against the Venezuelan regime has entered its operational phase. Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell officially announced the deployment of the USS Gerald R carrier strike group, accompanied by destroyers, a missile cruiser, and multiple squadrons of tactical aircraft to reinforce anti-narcotics efforts in the Caribbean region. In practice, the operation represents the largest U.S. military presence in South America in more than 2 decades. The move coincides with recent statements by Donald Trump, who reiterated that leaders who sponsor drug trafficking will be eliminated. Security analysts interpret the phrase as an implicit authorization for the neutralization of specific targets, including members of Venezuela's high command. Diplomatic sources consulted by Relatorio Militar indicate that the White House has notified Congress of the potential for limited ground operations under the argument of self-defense against narco-terrorism. The initiative is backed by resolutions previously approved during Trump's first term, allowing extraterritorial actions against transnational threats. Meanwhile, the CIA and U.S. Southern Command, SOUTHCOM, have intensified intelligence activities across northern South America. Satellite imagery reveals constant flights of B-52H bombers and MQ-9 Reaper drones over the past 48 hours, following routes close to Venezuelan airspace. The objective appears to be the mapping of anti-air defenses and strategic infrastructure. The U.S. State Department, on the other hand, maintains a diplomatic tone. Our focus is to disrupt drug flows and protect hemispheric security. Yet, among military analysts, there is consensus that the operation surpasses the limits of a mere anti-narcotics mission and leans toward a surgical intervention, with Maduro himself classified as Priority Target 1. In Caracas, Nicolás Maduro's government reacted with the rhetoric that has defined recent weeks: total mobilization and a narrative of national resistance. During a televised address, the Venezuelan president announced 72-hour-long military exercises involving the armed forces, civilian militias, and police units.
The order, according to Maduro, is to defend every inch of the homeland against what he called an unprecedented imperial threat. Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino Lopez confirmed that the country has entered a phase of permanent vigilance. Military sources report that anti-air batteries have been redeploying around Caracas, and part of the weaponry has been moved to coastal areas near La Guaira and Puerto Cabello. Images published by official channels show missile launchers positioned atop buildings and defense equipment placed at strategic locations, including the perimeter of Miraflores Palace. Maduro accuses Washington of waging psychological and media warfare magnified by alleged incursions of U.S. aircraft into Venezuelan airspace. The regime also denounces an informational sabotage campaign, citing power outages and internet disruptions attributed to external actions. Local analysts, however, claim that some of these disruptions stem from the government's own internal control over communications meant to suppress rumors and independent broadcasts. The international political response remains fragmented. While Colombia maintains official silence, diplomatic sources in Bogotá claim that Maduro may have used Colombian territory as a temporary escape route. Meanwhile, the Organization of American States, OAS, has called for restraint and transparency, but avoided directly condemning Washington's military escalation. On the other hand, Moscow and Beijing have expressed symbolic support for Caracas, reiterating that Venezuelan sovereignty must be respected. Maduro's government bets on the narrative of resistance but faces growing regional isolation, accumulated sanctions, and quiet defections within the armed forces. According to observers, the nation is living its most fragile moments since 2019, when coup attempts and massive protests nearly toppled the regime. The escalation between Caracas and Washington has reached a critical point. The deployment of the USS Gerald R carrier, the confirmed presence of B-52 strategic aircraft over the Caribbean Sea, and the full mobilization of Bolivian forces set the stage for a pre-conflict scenario. Even if the official U.S. narrative continues to frame the mission as anti-narcotics, the political and military magnitude of the operation is undeniable. Subscribe to Military Report and follow the next chapters.